try to draw the surviving younger Stark family here for a home-based comic. Okay, so that's what the eyes are going to be there. Massive ring here for some reason. So this is going to be Sansa, I think. It's a very thin mouth there. That's probably give her that worried expression she always has. Okay, it's just going to be a quick sketch here. Of course, the hair has to go back there. Okay, so if that's Sansa, this should be Arya. Slightly rounder face, but she's very stern expression. I think the eyebrows are what's really going to sell this. So we'll give her abnormally thick eyebrows. She has very dark eyebrows, this actress. So her hair is always pulled back quite tight to make her look very young. We'll give her little stick out ears there. She's always got this little pout. Do this little sort of it's the sort of thing I'd fix in post. She has to be a little bit angrier. And she's always got this sort of raggedy type of cloak on. Okay, so that's that face there. This one's not looking stern enough, so probably have to fix her hair there, or mouth. Now Bran, he's sort of changed over time, and of course he's sitting down in a wheelchair now. He's always got, I think the nose is where sort of Bran lives, so let's get the face shape in. Let's see, is that working? Yep. First time I've done one of these. And he's got this new sort of hairstyle, which is sort of almost like one of the Beatles. There you go. He's got this sort of probably the one that's going to be the least of a likeness, but I think if get So now it's all going to be wolf pelts really sort of blocking everything, but if we sort of nut out these basic shapes, we sort of know where everyone's standing. So Arya would sort of be like this. Maybe she's got her hand on the hilt of a little needle before we put all the cloaking in. And this guy's just going to have wolf pelts over his lap, but we might give the hint of a wheelchair here to sort of show that, you know, he's sitting on something. Okay, maybe some arms here. Don't know if you can hear the kids downstairs. So that's the quick sketch that I would then throw on a light table, maybe for some, you know, better looking stuff. So maybe I might continue to work this up. This guy's got a little sort of buckle here. I'm going off a reference photo of the Stark family, so I'm just sort of working sketchily with the likenesses, but you know, in this one her hair is back, so maybe I'll sort of keep it there so that we can get some more of the detail on Sansa. This is a homemade comic that got some pretty bad jokes in it. Basically, Jaime comes to Winterfell in anticipation of season 8, and he just starts dropping the worst puns based on everyone's situation. Jaime's only got one hand, so he turns up. They ask him, "What are you doing here, Jaime?" And he's like, "I heard you might need a hand," as he holds up his fake hand. Ba-dum-ching. And then the jokes sort of get worse from there. But I want to get these likenesses right, because the selling of a really bad joke is in the detail. Everyone seems to have really thick gloves. Well, it's winter, so I'm gonna have to, let's see, 1, 2. I'm going with 3-fingered hands on this comic. That can sort of hide behind there, I guess. And this guy seems to have, and Brandon seems to have, a lot of these wolf pelt layers. I heard they're IKEA rugs or something. And a lot of people are now buying them for cosplays. So IKEA is getting a lot of sale out of these rugs once it was sort of, the secret was out. The reason these Stark children have to be shown up. Okay, how's that looking? Alright, so now I'm going to use the light table to do a second pass on these pencils. Try to fix up a few errors and get some cleaner lines here. So I might start with, this is where you can sort of go from front to back and really go to town with getting the details right before you sort of commit to inks. This is not necessarily a step that I always do. Sometimes I'm kind of in a rush, and so I usually go straight to inks here because I'm fairly confident with my pencils. But in this case I really want to get it right, so I'm going to have a go at getting in some finer detail before I go to inks. This way, a lot of the shapes and a lot of the it's a harder step because usually you should work in blue line or something so that you can sort of tell the difference between the dark and the light. Here on the camera it's looking actually a lot clearer than what I'm seeing in real life. I'm just going to see what happens if that... Okay, I've just... my light table has got 1, 2, 3 levels of lighting, and if I put it on the lightest, or the darkest, the lowest setting, let's call it that, it's a lot easier to see the contrast. So now with this mechanical pencil I can sort of get some of that in, because they're not going to really be seen from not really going to be seen beyond this line here, but it always helps sort of knowing what's beyond the frame. Let me just open up that reference again. I'm just opening up a reference off screen so that I can sort of tell what's going on. Okay, so she's got some hair back this way. The Stark girls seem to like to pin up their hair a little bit differently. And what have we got? I think we've only got... I have to make some stuff up as I go along here, because Arya's also quite multi-layered, but I haven't got a reference in this particular photo of what's under the cloak, so maybe I could either close up the cloak a little further or commit to some shading, but all the doublets are kind of the same. They've always got these little straps with some extra buckles, you know, and some studs and things. I'll probably be forgiven for making some stuff up as I go along here, and then of course that would all be dark down there. Now, Sansa isn't quite looking like Sansa just yet, so maybe I should make this part a little bit more prominent. Maybe give her a bit of a braid, because she sort of adopted her mum's hair in season 7, hasn't she? She's also got a squarer chin than the others. The one regret of the working in black and white for this comic is that things like colour to differentiate characters, let's just raise her mouth there a little bit. And give her a bit more of sometimes the likenesses don't quite work out. Now, there's this very prominent ring that she wears. Now, some of the clothes are almost indicative of something like Edward Scissorhands or that sort of thing. Now, her coat is a little bit... There's a bit of shape to it, almost like there's a collar here, even though it's all furry, you know, wolf pelt. There. And then she's got this doublet with a lot of horizontal detailing and this sort of chain. Getting the details right is kind of important for me. Okay, so then we'll probably use the brush pen to really pick out the detail on those. So we'll just leave that, but Yeah, we'll use the brush pen there. That'll be a lot of fun. But you know, we've got a lot of this stuff. I don't exactly know sort of where her body is behind here, but let's work on Bran a bit. Okay, what do we got? Yep, that's looking good. Okay, so Bran, now his hair. We'll start with his hair. This actor is the one that's sort of aged the fastest, the most obvious of all the Stark children. He's got shiftier eyes, so maybe I should make them really shifty by adding in that lower lid. Let's put a bit of a highlight, sort of that anime highlight that you get often. Again, he's got this sort of funny looking undershirt that seems to have a really floppy neck. Not entirely sure what this is about, if it's sort of something that they pull up. But he's got this hint of a buckle there. Maybe I'll put 2 in there. And now he's got sort of 2 layers of fur. And then we've got his gloves. So 2, 3 fingers. He's got sort of weird cuff here. It's almost like gathered a lot before it sort of disappears under the furs. I'll put the hint of the cuff there. Then we'll cover it with fur before we show off the lap here. And maybe a hint of chair. I'm not sure. A bit of that. Should really hint at some sort of a wheel, but again, that stuff's not going to really be seen. So, look, those pencils are a little bit more confident than the previous. As you can see, here's the first attempt, here's the second attempt, and from this one, what I next do is I grab the third sheet, and this is where I get onto inks. So I generally like to start with the thinnest, although starting with the, I use micron pens, the 8 is sort of like my mid-range. Let's bump up the light there. And what I like to do with this is I like to get the wider, more definite lines in first. So outlines and stuff like that. Let's get this eyebrow. In sort of my meanderings around the artistic networks, learning about inkers and pencilers and all that sort of stuff, I was always sort of the habit where the pencil was kind of like the rough sketch, and then the inks are sort of where I would usually put my details. But you know, sort of talking to people who actually ink, there are certain expectations that they have before they apply their craft to your pencils. The pencils actually have to be of a certain finished standard before they get in there and fill in their details. There has to be more than just a suggestion of line or... Okay, so might is my pen running out, or is it just the contrast here? Okay. So, for instance, that's where I would go with this 8 before I turn to a point. Can you see that? 0.3. Because I like to put in like things like eyes, which often need a little bit more of a fine lining. Working with this phone in front of me is certainly not ideal. Usually I can do quite a bit more, turning and so on. But, facial features and things like that, sort of where I bring in my 3. Now what I'll do is I'll jump ahead to Sansa, who's got the really big fur coat here, and put in her outlines. Yeah, she's looking a bit more like Sansa, with the wider chin. That was a good call. And the very sour expression. And the very worried eyebrows. I really like how the series has made her almost like a young version of her mum, that she's definitely taken on a lot of those personality traits of Catelyn Stark. Okay, that's where I sort of want to brush the brush pen to sort of come in to its own, but we can sort of get in some of those wider details. This is sort of like this is going to be more of a suggestion of patterning, and I think that best way to do that is to just use the inks to help that along. I'll sort of just get some of those fur details in here before I get onto the brush pen. Because I won't be able to do the hair until I've got that done. So what I might do is I might jump ahead, bring out the Micron. Can you see that? Yep, the brush, and start using it to flick. Sort of do this sort of random fur pattern, because I'm not yet still a master of this brush pen thing, although I really like what it can do, and I see what some people who have really mastered the art of the brush pen manage. See, I'm kind of sloppy with this, but when it comes to this sort of rough detailing, I like to really go to town with it. I'm probably holding it wrong. I'm probably committing a multitude of sins, and some more expert people watching, probably looking at me just going, "What are you doing? No, hold it that way." Shut the fuck up, a lot of you. Where I like the brush pen, where I've sort of learned to use it properly, is when sort of you need to fill in. And again, this is probably not the best use of a brush pen to sort of use it as a filler, but I found that outside of a really thick nibbed pen, sometimes this is really good to just sort of allow you to get into the areas that need a little bit of a thick and thin in the filling. And so what have we got here? Because we've got a lot of shadow under here, we can probably go in and really fill in, like, let's put in the suggestion of some material folds. I know we've sort of destroyed some of our detailing in there from the pencils, but this means that we can, okay, I'll show you what I use for block color when I need to do a huge block of black, because see, this whole process, the brush, once you get used to it, once I've kind of gone in with the brush, I kind of get into it and I kind of begin to get carried away with the wonderful way that can sort of allow you to have thick and thin lines. Okay. Okay, so then we've got this ability to sort of fill out and flesh out this block color where that's one of the reasons I love the light table so much, because it allows you to get some really nice clean finishes. There we go. Over existing line work. Excuse all the family noise in the background. It's unavoidable, I'm afraid. Okay, so what I was going to show you is that sometimes to go into block color, I've also gotten this fine and chiseled, I don't know what the brand is. Is it Zig? I'm not sure. But with the chiseled edge, right, I can actually go in and fill in blocks of black very, very quickly. And it's really good for this sort of thing. What it's not good at is getting a lot of variation. So if you need some definition around outlines and stuff, really, really good. But what the brush has, where the brush tip has the advantage is that if you need to sort of, as you're going along, fill in some bits that have more detail, you know, you have to sort of switch it up with this one, like the fine and the thick, but the brush sort of allows you to do both at the same time. Well, it's sometimes, you know, it's useful because all of these pens have their pros and cons. And I still have a long way to go because in learning how to use them, because you know, it looks like she's got two fingers here, but that? 21 minutes. Okay. I might leave the video there and then just cut to the finished, so I'll finish brand. But so far, that's what we've got. And you can sort of see how that technique of using various things and the light table. Let's take this away. And let's see if I can just turn this off for a second. You can see the huge difference that just plain inks makes. And then that'll provide a pretty good scan that I can then finesse up even further in digital. I've just sort of rocketed ahead and added in a few extra, finished brand there. So just didn't want to waste time doing the same techniques over and over again. But this is usually my favorite bit, and that is when I get to add in little dirt patches and details with a fine brush, or work out, you know, where shadows should fall on sort of leather type stuff. You know, this hand is probably not going to turn out correctly, so it might end up just being blotted out all entirely. But little mud patches on Arya's skins. Some things like this. And then, you know, I just have to go in there, and the fine pen usually helps with really sort of picking out details like in fur and stuff. And that's sort of where I've got to leave it for now. But yeah, thanks for watching. That's Sansa, Arya, and Bran. I'll do a final scan for the video. But that's sort of an analog inking for Inktober.